without further ado, I would love to welcome today's speaker, Casey Cooper. Welcome. Casey is a lifelong drummer and content creator of 15 plus years. He personally built and ran the largest YouTube channel for drumming for years before bringing his content expertise to Sweetwater in 2024. His personal social channels have crested millions of followers, and now he works as the director of content strategy for Sweetwater and shapes the content across all categories and channels for millions of musicians, creators, and music fans around the world. The content he has had his hands on has generated billion plus views, and his work focuses on generating product, engagement, and educational content that empowers algorithms and supports current and expanding audiences. He loves to help creators and musicians understand how content platforms and algorithms work so they can use them to build fan bases, sales, reach new audiences, and more. So, welcome, Casey. Hi. So as we get started today, where are you calling in from? I got to hear the scoop, but for everybody else's benefit, where are you?
In lovely Fort Wayne, Indiana, which it's really cool. I came from Georgia and Texas, so I'm used to like just blazing hot summers and not really having four seasons. And now I get snow and I get more mild springs and summers. It's been really beautiful exploring a new part of the country.
Love that. So I'd love to kick us off with what led you to pursuing music as your career? You started as a musician. How did you get into drumming?
I started drums when I was a young kid, so like, picking up the sticks around 6, 7, 8 years old, first drum set, and just a passion, absolute passion. My dad introduced me to music, all the best drummers, all the big 70s, 80s, 90s bands, and so I grew up with Neil Peart in my ear and John Bonham in my ear and just all of the greats. So it was kind of hard not to want to play music. And so yeah, that's where it came from. And that just became a passion that outweighed all other passions, going into middle school and high school, playing in symphonic bands and basketball bands and pep bands and playing in bands outside of school. So always it's hard once you get the bug, it's hard to stop the bug.
Well put, well put. And when did content creation start coming into the picture for you and how that linked into your music career?
So, this will date myself and my career a little bit here, but back when YouTube was just getting started, 2006, 2007, I was just starting to dabble in the world of video content, and I was in high school at the time, so didn't have a lot of gear, really didn't have much gear at all, but it was really just a like, hey, want to be creative, want to create something, was what I'm doing. At that time, it wasn't a career. It wasn't even a thought that that was a career. At that point in time, I'm not even sure that there was such a thing as like a career on YouTube or a career in social media. But it was a passion, and sharing my passion of music with other people was kind of the key at that point. And so that's where it all got started.
I love that. Also, I have to say this is a millennial safe space. I think you and I are like pretty much exactly the same age, it seems like, so don't worry.
You see the gray hair, it's
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the kids or being
Or the
a
yard work. Yeah. Could be anything. Um, I'm curious when I love this. The content creation started from the real authentic, genuine position of wanting to share your music with the world. I'm curious when that started to transition for you and you realized that your online presence might be opening professional doors for you.
So there's a few steps in that process, and I think that like for anyone who's considering content as a possible career or considering content as a possible way to even just further your career, like you can use it to get yourself out there, you can use it to pay the bills. It's not necessarily the same thing, but it is important to understand the opportunity there. One of the things that I think is interesting is the way that you approach it. And so for me, I approached it very much not going into it thinking to myself like, oh, this is going to be a career. I'm going to make money from this. The next video I'm going to put out is going to get 1 million views and I'm going to make money. I approached it from the perspective of like, I like creating something. I want to put it out there. And so for me, it started very much like I just want to kind of get my name out there a little bit. I originally thought to myself, like, oh, I'm going to use this to get into a band that is, already got the pieces of what it needs to succeed. At that point in time, I was very much thinking that touring and playing on the road was going to be the thing that I was most interested in. So it was mostly an exposure kind of thing. Put myself out there as a drummer. I played in a bunch of different bands, and there were some good bands, but it really felt like they were always missing something. It's pretty hard to make it in a band, and especially back when you didn't have the opportunity of the internet to compound your fame and open those kind of doors. And so at this point in time, it was like, hey, I need to figure out a way to get out there. And so um, I didn't really start taking it seriously as a potential career opportunity until I was in college around 2011. I started to put out videos very regularly. I was like, I'm going to pursue this thing, and part of the reason that I decided to pursue it was because every time I'd play a gig, people would say like, "You're really fun to watch," and I'm a decent drummer, but I think my superpower is just like having fun and being enjoyable and entertaining to watch as a player. And so for me, YouTube being a visual medium, social media being a visual medium, it was like, okay, well, maybe people will want to watch this online. So one of the big things that I did when I started out was I decided I was going to make sure that when you searched for things in the drum world, you found content that I had produced. So every day I would wake up and I would find what's the newest song that someone just put out? Can I put a spin on that? What's the latest idea or concept that someone has put out? Let me put a spin on that. And it started to work. I started to gain traction. I started to gain followers. Nothing big, nothing like impressive, especially not to today's numbers, everybody. It's a lot easier to get to bigger audience reaches because the audience sizes are larger. But back then it was like, oh, this is kind of something. But my first actually was my second year at Georgia State University. I put out a video that went absolutely viral, front page of Reddit, front page of YouTube, had over 1 million views in 24 hours, which isn't as much today, but it was pretty big back then. And I went to class and I'm sitting in the back of the class and I see computers all out in front of me and people are watching this video, not realizing that I'm in the room or that I created the video. They're just watching the video in front of me. And that was the day that I was like, hey, maybe I could do this, maybe this could be a thing. I love it. It's fun. And it's actually starting to I'm finding a platform. I'm finding success in this.
I love that. You've been part of the, journey of, I appreciate you noting, social media strategies have also changed so much, even in the last year, as AI gets its hands on things, everything grows and changes very constantly in this world. I'm curious how your strategy shifted. You kind of started to hint at this from the difference of like, I'm putting a profile together to be recognized for like building connections with fellow creators versus a broader audience building platform or what would become also now, the brand partnership kind of piece, which is even in and of itself like a new addition piece that people can start putting into their profiles. How has your strategy shifted over time?
So one thing that I always like to say is that if you go into social media or you go into content creation with the goal to create a large platform or to make money, and that's your main reason and that is your main drive, it's a dangerous way to approach it because if you do not have a passion and a love and a desire to do what you do because you like doing it as well, then it's really going to be discouraging if you don't experience that success right away. And so I really encourage people to find a passion, find a way of communicating, find something that they like to do. Because I mean, you can look at the internet and you can see. I mean, there's a guy that I see all the time that swings scooters in the air and then hits himself in the shins with them. Like there's all sorts of ways to get views, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a way you want to get known. It's a way that you want to continue your career. So you do want
Eventually, your shins are going to wear out.
yeah, you only have so many shins. So finding a way to make sure that it is something you're also passionate about is really important. Now, I don't want to talk too much about strategy, older strategy, because that isn't necessarily as important nowadays. But one of the things that is really important is at the end of the day, it's not as much about what it is that you want to create as it is what it is that the audience, that the potential people you're trying to reach want. And so, like, a lot of times I think we get lost in that because we're like, oh, this is what I want to create and I'm going to put it out there. And, why isn't it succeeding? Well, it's probably because it may not be exactly what the audience you're reaching wants. And, that also can in and of itself be a little discouraging. But the way that you have to kind of look at it is you have to find the way to take the things that you love and cross them over with the things that are working or the things that people are looking for. A large part of the strategy of actually building an audience when you're starting at a lower level or you don't have a lot of followers or this is kind of a new thing on YouTube, it is a search-based platform. People are searching for products, they're searching for ideas, they're searching for concepts, they are typing in things, they are asking questions. And you can be the person that is there to answer those questions, to showcase that product, to be found when they search for it. And if someone is searching for something, that makes them a quality viewer. That means that they are more interested in what it is that they're going to watch, and they're more likely to stick around. And so, outside of Sweetwater on my personal channels, a quality viewer and the search potential of YouTube was a huge part of the strategy. It is like, what's the newest thing that people are searching for? What's the newest product that's going to come out? What just launched? What are people talking about? What questions are they asking? If someone says like, how do I tune my drums? Like you can be the person that has a great piece of content that is most relevant to that question. Um, and in that right, you now have a quality viewer. And if you have a good title and a good thumbnail that increases the click through, and encourages someone, they actually click on your video as opposed to the other videos that are offered to them. Now YouTube has all of the data that it wants to consider your piece of content. After you click on it, then it's up to you whether or not the content that you have produced has a good hook. Does it keep people around? Do they stick around? And then is the length of your video and the average view duration of a viewer, is that long enough that YouTube is wanting to continue to push that? Now, I'm talking a lot about YouTube because this is a very separate strategy from a standard social media platform outside of YouTube, more like an Instagram or a TikTok. But the thing about YouTube as a platform is that you do have the superpower of search. It is something that's easy, it's something to lean on. And if you are interested in finding a successful audience, if you can be found where people are searching for things, that is a trick to building an audience when you don't have one. Otherwise, you're 100% leaning on algorithms, which algorithms, their goal is to keep people watching videos. So if you're producing successful content, an algorithm will work in your favor. But YouTube's little trick is that you can be the one to show up for things that don't have a lot of support already, or you can be the more recent person to show up for something that is being searched for. So, all that to say, if you get a good click-through rate because your title and your thumbnail are good on YouTube, then people stick around and watch enough of your video. YouTube is then going to turn on its algorithm and it's going to start pushing that. That's why you can see a video that has a great title and a great thumbnail not get a lot of push, but you can also see a video that doesn't really have a great title or thumbnail, but it's a great piece of content that is having some success because it's not just one piece of the puzzle. It's not just a great title. It's not just a great thumbnail. It's not just great content. It's all of those things together that will give you the piece of content that then goes and gets 1 million views or gets 100,000 views or even gets 10,000 views. Like I'm using big numbers, but like getting 10,000 views on a piece of content on YouTube is a big deal when there's so much content out there. And that's why you have to find ways to make sure that your content is the one that's actually getting discovered. Now, I'll stop for a second if you have a follow-up question, or I'll continue into like
Well,
algorithm.
this might be where you're about to go next because, a lot of our folks, especially in the music industry, Instagram drives a huge volume of things. So I'm curious, maybe this is where you're going, but like how the strategy differs, or if you pit ever like your YouTube strategy and your Instagram strategy kind of against and with each other on your content.
So, I mean, the thing about Instagram or the thing about TikTok or the thing about even Facebook to a certain extent, those platforms are less search based. Now, people will search for things, and you can use hashtags and you can use the right titles and descriptors. But at the end of the day, you're controlled by the scroll. I mean, if you don't catch attention uh, on the platform, then the algorithm is not going to push you forward, even if there's a little bit of search to what it is that you're showing. You have to catch the attention. That is the number one most important thing on any other platform. And so outside of YouTube, now I'm no longer thinking at like on YouTube, I think about the hook. On YouTube Shorts, I think about the hook. And YouTube Shorts works similarly to Instagram, but you still have the search potential there. On Instagram, it is like, does the audience I'm putting this out in front of, are they going to react well to this? And one of the important things to note about all these platforms is you are just battling for attention. And there is a level of percentage of attention. So like you don't necessarily have to have a longer video on Instagram for it to have a lot of success. But at the same time, the more that someone watches the piece of content that you have put on Instagram or put on any of these platforms, the more successful it's going to be because of the fact that the number one thing the platform wants is it wants you to stay on the content. The worst thing that can happen to your content is someone swipes away or someone doesn't watch very much of it. And so both of those two uh, key points, stayed to watch, swiped away, and then the average percentage of your content that is watched. It's the same kind of uh, things that work on YouTube, but in this case, it's even more important because you don't have the search potential to level that up.
I'm curious how, and this kind of leads in also to, I would say, authenticity comes up a lot, I think, in the question for creators, both how to portray their authenticity, right, as a brand and that kind of brand development, but also maintain their authenticity as a creator and kind of this balance between I may have a brand partnership and I'm doing some influencer kind of work, but I also am ultimately, hopefully, trying to drive my creative endeavors, my music. How do you feel like all of that kind of embeds within the strategies that you're looking at? Like, have you seen for yourself, like sometimes the things that go big means that then you have space to do the things that you know are maybe going to be for you, your passion projects, but they all kind of feed into your authenticity as your brand, for example? Or like, do you find that different platforms are better outlets for different areas or elements of your work that kind of then allow you to make use of the whole ecosystem, as it were? Just curious.
I do think that building a multi-platform strategy is the most successful way to utilize social media. Um, yes, it is great to be really big on one platform, but the power of all the platforms working together is really an opportunity to increase the potential value to a brand or a value to the actual opportunity to make money on that. So what I mean by that is, a lot of brands that I've worked with, they're going to pay a lot more to have a high performing YouTube video because they know that that generates a lot more click through than they're going to pay necessarily for a short form Instagram piece. And so, I mean, that's something that we operate here at Sweetwater. We certainly value a long form YouTube video over a single social media post to a certain extent because most of the time it generates more trackable traffic to site. So in that right, it is great to have all of those things work together. But when it comes to the authenticity of it, one of the big things that I always was very careful with, and that is, yes, it's nice to get a check, but it's not nice to get a check at the expense of your audience and your persona and your trust. So what I mean by that is like, sure, you're gonna get some emails in your inbox and someone's gonna offer you like I got offered makeup deals and all sorts like this is not a makeup face, but at the same time, I could have taken a check to make some additional money for something or a bad product. I mean, I'm very much in the music retail land now as an actual employee of Sweetwater, but prior as the first affiliate and a long-term influencer for Sweetwater. And uh, I would get offers for other products outside of Sweetwater or outside of reputable brands, Chinese brands, and like things that are just flying in from overseas at really low prices, and not necessarily the same quality as some of the things that we were working with outside of that. And I knew that, I can't put something on my channel that isn't extremely good quality. Otherwise, I'm going to end up with people upset that they spent their hard-earned money on something that isn't reputable. So from that aspect, like actually trying to sell products or trying to monetize the output of your social media platform so it can become a career, that's one of the biggest things about authenticity is like if you say I love something, you better love it. If you say I think this is great, then you better actually like think it's great because if you don't, people are going to see right through that right away. And um, not to say like, I mean, there was even a point in time where I got married, started having kids, a lot more bills piling up, and I became more accepting of ad potential brand deals and things of that nature. I worked with Sweetwater a lot more and showcased a lot more products. And I'm not upset that I did that because I trusted and believed in the products I was showcasing. But at the same time, my audience did notice. There was definitely a point where there was a difference in the interest in the content because a lot of the content was more focused around a product or more focused around selling something rather than the really authentic, fun, engaging kind of content that I was producing beforehand. And so the best content creators, the ones that really find success, not only in engagement and viewership and build a large audience, but also do that well with brand deals, it's when you can consider the value to the viewer. And I say that, and I mean that in a lot of different ways, but ultimately, your audience determines whether or not they watch something by whether or not it's giving them value. Is it funny? Okay, yeah, that's definitely a value. It's not as much of a value in the music world. Certainly, there's humor in the music world, and we utilize that. But like, are you teaching something that's valuable to them? Are you showcasing something, a product, or helping them understand before they make a purchase that's valuable to them? Are you providing performance or inspiration that's value to them? But it's really whether or not you're providing value, whether or not they're going to accept the content that you're creating. And so if you're going to do a brand deal, or if you're worried about your authenticity, or you're trying to find a way to promote something, the question you need to ask yourself is this adding value to my viewer, or is this just something that I'm forcing upon them? Because that's something that I've really focused in on here at Sweetwater is we have a YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers, and this isn't the same kind of thing you'll run into if you're operating a single channel based on your personality or based on your talent or based on your band. But when you are operating something that reaches a large audience of different people, then when you take something, let's say we have a cool artist and we're like, oh, hey, we want to share this with the audience. If they haven't heard of this artist or they don't care about this artist, then I am forcing content on them that they don't actually want. And so because of that, I get bad data points and YouTube gets bad data points or Instagram gets bad data points. The next thing you know, it doesn't succeed. It doesn't matter that that artist is actually really popular or creates great content or the content is really good. If you are forcing something on people that are not interested in watching that, and that's where the algorithm or the platform is getting its data points from, that content's not going to succeed. So, from an authenticity standpoint, make sure that you are considering the viewer and considering the value that you add. When we think about a product or we think about an artist or we think about a piece of content here at Sweetwater or on my personal channel, what I really try to consider is what is it that I'm giving the audience? And if I don't have a good answer for that, if instead it's like, oh, I just kind of want to push this to them, or oh, we just really want to sell this thing, or oh, we just like, if it's not going to work. It's not going to work in the way you want it to. You might get a few thousand views or you might get a little bit of response, but if you want it to work in the algorithm, you have to generally provide things that people want.
Mm. That makes sense. For folks who are, I would say maybe like starting out, they're building their creator profile, thinking about how to make themselves attractive to brand partners like Sweetwater or elsewhere in the industry. How do they don't necessarily, if you're building your audience and you're trying to figure out what they're interested in, or also maybe drive an audience that could be interested in the same thing that you might be interested in as a creator, how do you go about that? Like, would you have any tips for those who are like at the precipice of trying to figure this out?
So, it's pretty simple, honestly. You need to do the research. And what I mean by that, especially if you're considering YouTube, it's very easy to do the research. If you're thinking about long form, if you're thinking about how can I create things that are viewed and uh, take advantage of the search algorithm and potential there, um, go look at what's working. Go look at what time other popular creators are posting. Go look at what kind of stuff those people are creating. Go look. You can do a lot of data studying on different audience types and when they are online, when are they most watching. And you can do that same kind of stuff for your own channel. It's just not going to be super effective until you start to build an audience. But if you do look at your analytics and it says, hey, my viewers are mostly on at 3 p.m. on a Friday, well, go and is that that should be when you're posting, but at the same time, if you're posting at the same time that someone else that does the same kind of thing as you is also posting, then you're competing for the same viewership. You're competing for the same audience. So those are the kinds of things that you'll want to consider. But ultimately, you can see what works. What thumbnails are working, what titles are working, what hooks are working, what links are working. It's honestly all of that stuff combined. How are they re-engaging the audience? Because first off, you got to hook them at the very beginning. So what kind of hooks are keeping people's attention? But then how do you re-engage that attention and try to keep people around for longer? Because our attention spans have just dipped. That's why social media is oftentimes so much easier to find success on because we're excited about 10 seconds, and after about 10 seconds we're no longer excited. So uh trying to catch someone's attention in this world is actually not so easy anymore, especially with the amount of stuff out there. But studying the audiences and finding out what it is that's working and where you can intersect with that, because the second part of this is be uniquely you. I i run into people all the time that are like, hey, I'm going to make content like that person, and I'm like, they're very successful already and that's who they are and that's who they're known to be. So like you can try, but if you're doing the same things that other people are doing and you're not doing them better or in a unique way, then it's really tough to find that kind of success. It's kind of like writing a really good album and then being like, I'm going to write that same really good album again. Like you could try, but people are still even going to react differently to it, even if it is just as good. So there is a certain level of finding what is the unique way that you approach what it is that you do. Like I understand I am not the most technical drummer on the planet. I understand that I don't know how many drummers we have in the chat here, if we have any drummers in the chat here, but like you can name it. Like I'm not Neil Peart. That's not the kind of player I am. So I had to figure out what kind of player I am. I'm the Dave Grohl kind of guy. I'm the uh, you know, heavy hitter, just jamming, having fun. Then there's the what can I add to that that makes it more interesting and builds a wider audience? Because that's one of the reasons that I found a lot of success was that I wasn't just appealing directly to drummers. I was appealing to musicians and people in general by doing stupid things like I lit my drumsticks on fire. And nowadays that sounds like par for the course. Oh yeah, he's the guy sticking his face in the anthill for views. But like there's a certain level of like what is it that you can do that gives yourself some unique advantage or unique personality or unique opportunity to approach something differently. Like I'm not saying don't copy someone's great idea, but I'm saying if you just straight up copy someone's great idea, that that's not going to help you build the audience that you want. Instead, it might work once, but like you have to find who it is that your audience is going to buy into.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm curious from your Sweetwater hat now for a moment. How do how do you in your role work with budding creators and rising creators around as influencers? I know you have a lot of brand partners that you work with, and you're also balancing not only Sweetwater's brand, but the brand partnerships of some of your affiliates as well, correct? So you've got a lot of swirling strategies in place. How does all of this come together for you?
That, I really enjoyed being a solo creator, and I certainly love the challenge of working at Sweetwater. And it's a cool challenge. Yeah, I love this kind of thing. I love the different algorithms. I love the different strategies, the different product categories, and all the different pieces of the puzzle. But it definitely takes a different viewpoint in order to be successful when it's not a single lane. So like it's a lot easier as an individual creator to build your specific lane and work and roll in that, and which is great. That's great news. Hopefully this doesn't this doesn't come off as bad news. That's great news. But the interesting thing to think about here is um, everybody's path needs to be a little different and everybody's content needs to be a little bit different. So when working with affiliates, I go and I study, okay, so this is what's working well on this channel. Well, how do we take this product and how do we relate it into this style of content? Well, what are the hooks that work well on this person's channel? Or um, what kinds of content? There's certain people that do better at, full guides or better at performances or better notes. So like studying what it is that each one of those categories and types of creator are really most successful at, and then you find how to plug in what it is that you're doing. It's the same thing as like defining the unique spin. We launched a product called the JBL Bandbox Trio uh, 4 months ago or something like that, and it's this all-in-one speaker that has multiple inputs. It's actually a really great like busking style speaker, and it has AI processing built into it so it can pull out stems and you can sing over it. It's a really cool piece of technology. And when I heard about it, I was like, this is something we have to do right. So then it was, how do we show the potential of this to a wide audience? How do we get it in front of the right musicians? Um, and approaching that in a different light than just like, oh, this is what it is. It's a speaker. Like catch the attention. The hook is a whole band playing through it, and the video itself is the highest performing video on the JBL Bandbox on YouTube. And so, not to say that this is exactly what you're going to be doing, but when you recognize a huge potential opportunity, it is important to make the most of those wins, make the most of those opportunities, make the most of the times that you have a key and you can turn it and you can open the door. That's one of the coolest things about Sweetwater is it shows that there is a career and there are opportunities to continue content creation. Like we have on-staff content creators who make content in different product categories. We work with the affiliates and influencers on the outside of the building. We pay them to make product demos or we pay them to make conceptual things. And so to see that there are other paths and there are ways to increase your career and then take the talent that you have and make it something, it's a good and encouraging sign because if you're doing it and there's no end or there's no more opportunity than what is the goal. So hopefully that answered some of the question. I mean
Yeah, it did. And I'm gonna say we're gonna transition to Q&A in a moment, y'all. So start thinking about your questions and go ahead and pop them in the chat as you're doing that. I would love to hear, for those on the call interested in maybe becoming a Sweetwater influencer or affiliate or working with you in this way, like what do you look for? You talked about the strategy pieces, but some other pieces you're looking at, like is raw engagement numbers or followers like the biggest or first thing you look for in a young creator, or is it, for the producers or engineers who are here, like how much is there also like craft factors, like just being a really amazing badass producer first and foremost, and knowing how to be able to use the tool best to use a how to do a how-to video? Like, how does that partner alongside the engagement metrics that you might be looking at to make your themselves kind of like appealing to you?
Yeah, so I think it's important to note, and I kind of briefly mentioned this earlier, that like uh, it's not about follower counts anymore. It's not about subscriber counts anymore. None of that really affects the potential performance of your video. I have a secondary channel at Sweetwater called Sweetwater Soundcheck, where now I put demo videos so that I can keep that Sweetwater main channel with 1 million subscribers more focused on content that is wider reaching, and the more niche content that is focused directly on search uh goes on this channel. And actually I don't even want subscribers on that channel. I know that's like, I mean I do, but like the more subscribers you get that have different thought processes, then the harder it is to pinpoint a piece of content. And so what I'm getting to there is that the amount of followers you have doesn't necessarily impact the level of success that you can have. So, from Sweetwater's perspective, we're not necessarily like, oh, hey, well, they don't have 100,000 subscribers, so this isn't going to work out. No, it's like, what are the view counts you're getting on your videos? What's the quality of the content that you're producing? And a lot of it is also like persona and image. Sweetwater, we're very careful to make sure that we are we're careful about the language in our videos. We're careful about the t-shirts and the like posters and the things that go on inside of the content, because we just want to make sure that we're family friendly and we're able to like help people make music, and that doesn't become a part of it where it's like, oh, I can't let my kids watch a Sweetwater video, or like that says Sweetwater in the background but it's not family friendly. So like those, that is something to consider, is the way that you present yourself in the content does affect a lot of the brand partners that you're able to work with. And in this case, so if you are great at what you do and you're great at presenting yourself on camera and you're generating content that people are responding positively to, then that really is a lot of the keys to whether or not there's a potential to start working together. Outside of that, there is a level of like, hey, maybe we don't necessarily go straight to like writing a check for a lot of money to make a video. Like sometimes we're like, hey, we're going to send you this microphone and see what it is that you do with it. And by no means am I saying like, oh, hey, do a bunch of work for free, or, but like, I am the kind of person that takes advantage of opportunities. So like when I was going through my career, it was like, I'm going to play that gig, even though I'm not really getting paid much for it, because I want the experience. I want to get better. I'm going to make that video because I know I'm going to do a great job. And the next time so like, not to say like Sweetwater or anything in general, but like always take advantage of the opportunities you have to just knock it out of the park and create a resume that is impressive, especially in the online world.
That's great. Thank you. Turning to some questions from the chat. One question from Maya, looking at kind of thinking about setting yourself apart with musical content specifically. So obviously, we see a lot of how-to videos out there, particularly in the production and engineering space, but maybe being able to take that to the next level and talking about performance content or ways that you've seen folks creatively integrate perhaps some of the product necessities with like actually showcasing their artistry as well, and kind of creative ways that creators could kind of do a little bit of both, as it were.
Mm. No, that's a great one, because that's um ultimately finding the way. Like I've talked with many brand partners here at Sweetwater where it's like they're like, oh, well, we really wanted to work with this channel, but like we can't figure out how to like actually showcase our product with, like, we put it in the video, but we don't know if people are actually clicking on it or actually know about it, et cetera, et cetera. So um one one tip and one thing that I see that works very often is creatively displaying the visual. So whether that is, I saw one the other day where someone was like, the camera shot was actually almost like kind of behind a couch, like they were sneaking a shot of somebody doing their thing, and then they're over there just playing, and it sounds beautiful, and it like the music itself is great. But now the way that it's been framed is a lot more unique. It's everybody's got a camera and everybody can sit in front of that camera in a standard way and make music. And if you've got enough of a hook from a musical perspective, then maybe it's going to work. But if you can use some creative shot process or creative on-screen text or something to give it that extra hook, that's a big benefit there. But speaking into that, like the hook could be like, you got to hear what this microphone sounds like. And then going into singing or playing something that's like really, really interesting. Um, it's those little subtle things that allow you to bring the product in without it being like, hey, today I'm going to talk about this Sennheiser microphone and show you all the great things about it. It's like, no, just like hear this, or even comparing them side by side, singing the same line or playing the same line side by side on different microphones is a really interesting way to combine the product and the performance aspect of it.
Awesome. In terms of difference, we have a question from Emily of like YouTube Shorts versus Instagram versus trial reels, TikTok. And have you been using similar videos across all of them, or do you like change up your video content depending on the different platforms?
So that is it's a really good question because there are a lot of ways to approach that. Now, bandwidth wise, if you have all the time in the world, then your best bet is to study each platform, similar content, what's working, what's the hook, what's the length, what's the way that this platform is specifically performing and working in the type of content that I'm creating. But at the same time, not everybody has that luxury. Certainly at Sweetwater, we don't always have the ability to I mean, there's thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of different products. It's like we can't go in and create bespoke special videos for every platform. So a lot of times my goal is to find a way to create something that I believe has a good chance of performing across all channels. And that isn't necessarily the best strategy because then if someone's there's not as much of a reason to follow you in multiple places because they're seeing the same thing from you in every place. So having something bespoke or at least having some differentiation in the strategy between your platforms so there is a reason to follow you on TikTok and on Instagram or to follow you on YouTube and on Instagram. But there are the same components, and I think the comment mentions it. Similar videos, fairly repeatable formula with hook text. It's doing well. Um, that's not a problem. Like you can do that, and I do that a lot when we have a great concept that we're able to get filmed and it covers all the platforms. I see a lot of success on all the platforms if you get that one formula correct. But there is a level of the algorithms do change and things aren't always the exact same way. The trial reels opportunity is a big one that we utilize a lot because speaking again to the audience perspective, we've built such a wide, interesting audience through the years that we can put out a guitar video with Slash or Paul Gilbert or somebody, and that's really almost always going to succeed because we have a very guitar heavy audience. But when it comes to posting a DJ video or posting a keyboard video, like those things don't necessarily work with our audience as well. And that's where we use the trial reels opportunity because the trial reels will oftentimes send it to an audience if you signal early enough in the video what the video is about. You have to let Instagram know this is a drum video by having a drum very early in it or a guitar or whatever it is that you need to let people know, let the algorithm know what it is so that it can send it out to that particular audience.
We have a question from Athena, which is a great one around how do you balance actually like the making of the videos, the editing in particular. That process can be particularly arduous if you don't have a team to support you on this. And of course, for all of our creators, they're doing this kind of content creation on top of their creative work behind the board, as it were, or in front of the board. How do you make that process more efficient for you?
Yeah, so I've been in both shoes. I do have an incredible team here at Sweetwater that a lot of times I have edit. a lot of the content that is created for Sweetwater because I do have other jobs and I just don't have time to edit anymore. But at the same time, I used to do all the editing myself. And one of the things that I've really learned, especially since occasionally I still take on some projects here, and I just with a family and kids and stuff at home, it's hard to get it all done. I have to be efficient. I have to find ways to make the process easier in order to be successful. Um, I had a video yesterday. It's a paid ad, but it's also an organic short and organic. It's about some hardware. And in order to pull it off, I wanted to do it all one take. So I knocked out everything I wanted in a single shot with a DJI Osmo Pocket 3 and did the entire thing one take. So the editing on that actually took like 5, 10 minutes. And this isn't necessarily a complete answer to the question, but one thing that I think it's important to understand is that 4 times the effort doesn't mean 4 times the results. The 4 cameras over 1 camera doesn't necessarily mean 4 times the results. And that's something that I'm trying to teach Sweetwater right now to a certain extent is like the content that is happening on the camera matters more than how complicated the actual editing process was to get there. And so, in a lot of scenarios, I find ways to keep the camera in the same place and rotate through multiple videos at the same time or rotate through multiple concepts so that then everything, it's the same lighting, it's the same color correction, it's the same editing frame. It's the like you don't have to change a lot if you can batch things or you can do things in a way where it can be used to lower the overall additional effort. That's kind of the key. And ultimately, if the hook is good and the content is good, then it doesn't matter if you shot it with 20 cameras or you shot it with 1 camera. It's about what you're doing.
Thank you. Um, For many of our producers and engineers, the bulk of their work is happening behind the computer or behind the board, and is can be somewhat static in that regard from like a visual perspective. Curious if you have suggestions for folks interested in trying to. You kind of mentioned like different camera angles can sometimes elevate something or add a little bit of unique quality to it. How do you make something that is frankly largely, especially the computer-based things, like feel exciting for the algorithms?
So when you say computer-based, you mean like displaying of a screen grab?
Yeah, like if someone's opened up a session, let's say, and is like walking through their process for how they were mixing something, like how do you make that exciting content?
I mean, part of it is the additional angle. So, like, if you just go with a screen grab completely, it's oftentimes going to be pretty difficult to get a visual aspect. But like, even just starting with like a moving camera to where you sit down at the desk, or, hey, let me show you where you're on camera real quick. Like, let me show you these 3 tricks to what I just did on this mix. Like, there's a secondary element of the hook not necessarily being a screen grab unless you're able to put something on that screen grab that is interesting. I mean, you've seen the ones where it's the audio is the interesting part. Unfortunately, you can't hear that when you're muted, so that is a downside to audio specific work. But finding that opportunity to throw a little curveball in there, I think is key to finding success in that. And I know Jordan, you had some stuff you wanted to go over, so I don't want to talk too much.
You took the segue right out of my mouth, Casey.
Oh,
No, it's great. I was gonna say, folks, if you have any other questions you want to throw in the chat, we will have time. If you have any last things, feel free to don't be shy. But I do want to invite Jordan to say a few words about some opportunities right now at Sweetwater. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to you, Jordan.
Yeah, for sure. I'm taking notes over here, Casey. I do a little bit of content creation with music myself, so I'm off screen taking notes and trying to blow up my and go viral myself. So thanks, Casey. But no, hey,
well,
uh,
singer.
My role at Sweetwater, I'm the Vice President of Talent Acquisition and HR Business Partners here at Sweetwater. Basically, a long title to say finding some of the nation's top talent and then really protecting the employee experience at Sweetwater to be one that we truly do believe is a full-time dream. So we're talking about content creation for years and years. Casey and I connected when he would come on campus and do content creation for Sweetwater, and then we started dreaming together about what it could look like for him to pursue a full-time opportunity at Sweetwater. And that's so many people's stories who are now pursuing full-time careers at Sweetwater. Audio engineers who are Grammy Award winners and producers who, have Grammys walking around campus in many different categories and careers at Sweetwater. So this is just the shameless plug to say, while you're pursuing your dreams, Casey's still doing his own music and content. Before this call started, I said I have a couple gigs myself this weekend, so I'm still doing music and content myself. If there is a desire, we have quite a few positions open at Sweetwater. And I can say this, if you have a music technology background and audio engineering background, we can find a position for you. Most of our positions, I will say, disclaimer, are going to require relocation to Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's where our headquarters are. We have about 2,500 employees here at Sweetwater. If you haven't been on the campus of Sweetwater, I will say it's like Disneyland for for musicians. It's quite the campus and just a really beautiful space and place for musicians, a paradise, some might say. So uh, we do, speaking of content creation, we do have a position on the team that Casey manages the strategy for. We're currently looking for an individual who to do full-time work for us, talking specifically about camera and video equipment from a content creation standpoint. We're always looking for individuals to come on, not in a full-time capacity, but in an affiliate capacity. So there were a couple questions about like what is Sweetwater looking like, looking for in affiliates. So if there's any interest in that, I'll just say, Sky, if anyone wants to reach out and send their information your way, Casey and I can take a look at their profiles and see if there'd be a fit from that standpoint. But if there is a desire for full-time opportunities, this is where I just want to share the opportunity to say we have quite a few opportunities. So the last thing I'll say is because we require relocation, we also, for most positions, will also cover the costs of relocation. So I know we have people in Philly, I know we have people in LA on the call, all over the states and even international. If the position, if you're a fit for a position that makes sense, we would certainly look at covering relocation expenses too. So many musicians and music tech focused individuals have found meaningful careers at Sweetwater. By no means would I tell you if you're in pursuit of a dream in a studio or on the road with playing gigs or supporting an artist, living that dream, would I encourage you to wrap that up. But many people have found that Sweetwater is a great space to stop chasing the next gig and still be connected to the music industry in a pretty significant way. So,
Amazing. Thank you, Jordan. And thank you, Casey, so much for sharing your insights today. Really appreciate both of you. So thank you all very much. And thank you, everyone who joined today. Please feel free to shoot Nathan or myself info if you're interested in learning more about these career opportunities with Sweetwater. We'll make sure that your info gets over onto Jordan and Casey for consideration. And definitely check out the link that Jordan put in the chat. We'll make sure that we share it also with follow up for those of you who are on the call today as well. So thank you again, everyone. And a huge thank you to Jordan, Casey, and the Sweetwater team. Yay!